I would rather begin by congratulating you for the market launch of Kaziranga Edition. And with that, I would like to know how special the Kaziranga Edition is to you and Tata Motors, and of course, why.
Thank you, Mohit. Thank you for that. Yes, while we are here to celebrate the launch of or to celebrate the launch of Kaziranga, we are also here to kind of celebrate the achievement of becoming the number one SUV brand in the country. And I'll just talk a bit about that first because it has been our intention, our plan, and our strategy that we would achieve this status by around this time of the year. And coincidentally, just happened that it happened at the time of the launch of Kaziranga. So it's a wonderful sangam of things coming together for us. Over the last 4 months, we have seen almost 100,000 units of SUV sales from our side, which is about 22% of the SUV market, which is a very, very strong position to have. Our high SUVs, which is the Safari and the Harrier, are now almost 35% of the market, as well as our compact SUV Punch and Nexon are also approximately similar. Of course, we do not have presence in a couple of categories in the SUV segment, and therefore it's 22% holistically, but it's still right up there, right? It's the number one SUV brand. Very importantly, you were there for the Punch launch, and I'm sure that we certainly are very proud of what this car has achieved in the last just 4 months, averaging in excess of 10,000 units a month. And then, of course, we have the next, and this car is also featured in the top 10 cars in the country in a couple of months, as well as we know the Nexon is at the number 7 position of best-selling cars in India, and it is the number one compact SUV. So it's a fantastic time for us to launch the Kaziranga Edition, which is the first time I think in the market that any brand is able to present a powerful quartet of 4 SUVs across various segments. These beautiful cars, powerful cars, and I think it's fantastic that we're using the opportunity to also reflect and talk about us as a company, as a brand, which is Indian at heart, Indian in every which way, and being inspired by this beautiful country and the natural diversity of this country. And therefore, when we started this journey about a year back, the Kaziranga as a choice was actually a no-brainer. It was the most popular demand when we put down among ourselves and discussed. And it does a couple of things. One is it enables us to tell the story of Kaziranga. And if you go on YouTube, over the last 2 days, you would have seen some of the stories that we are talking around the Kaziranga National Park. And the translation of that park has happened in the aesthetics of the car, in terms of the look and feel of the car, the colors of the car from the outside, as well as the usage of various elements inside the car, including the Rhino logo mascot, which reflect the personality of this wonderful forest reserve.
Well, as you said, that Kaziranga edition will be showcased on the 4 SUVs. So what that also means is that hatchbacks will stay away from the Kaziranga edition, or you have some different editions planned for your hatchback portfolio.
We have different ideas for that because, you know, when as a brand we want to tell a story, it has to be authentic, and a hatch would not sit well in the landscape of Kaziranga, right? The rugged terrain of that reserve is all about how the SUVs would work well in that segment. So it's a very authentic story in that sense. We never get carried away by volumes, in the sense that, sure, if you do it here across the board, of course we'll sell a few units, right? But I think it's important that as a brand, that when we tell a story, that it has to be authentic. It has to connect completely end to end with the audiences. And I'm 100% confident that when you and consumers go and see these cars, I think what I'm trying to say can only get exemplified and amplified further.
Well, I'm looking forward to get one-on-one with the Kaziranga edition soon. And now talking of SUVs, yes, Punch of course had a great start in the Indian market. But somewhere, do you think that Punch would have posted even better numbers if there would have been a diesel engine on offer?
Like I mentioned previously, you can always keep adding and you can always get volumes, right? But it has to make business sense, first of all, and more importantly, it has to make sense for the car and the consumer, right? Uh, you know for a fact that the diesel segment is quite small overall, right? Industry wide. And we don't think that it is an imperative, that it was a primary imperative to put a car in diesel out there. And I think that we've been proven right, right? But
Well,
never say no, right? If as long as the punch consumers keep coming back for more and more, there are a lot of possibilities for us with the car, whether it's special editions, limited editions, powertrain interventions. Yes.
like more car makers are now keeping distances with the oil burner. Well, that is not the case with Tata Motors, I guess, with your last statement. And now moving over to the next question. So since we're not talking electric today, I would like to talk CNG today. So again, congratulations on the launch of
Did you
ICNG.
did you drive the car?
Yeah, I got to drive the Tiago ICNG. So, and I really like that. So, but what I want to know is, I know it's too early to ask for this, but what has been the customer response like? And if you could share like the sales figure or the booking numbers for the ICNG range.
I'm not going to share that, but I think it's suffice to say that this has been a wonderful, wonderful revelation because Mohit, that you've driven the car, you were there for the briefing. We have positioned the car differently than how CNGs are typically positioned. They've been typically positioned as a stripped down version of the fuel version, believing that it is meant for a customer who is very, very, very economy driven. Our belief is somewhat different because the car is 5, 6, 7 year purchase, right? And therefore we believe that the customer still wants to get the best car possible with the best features, best drivability, and so on and so forth. And we've chosen to therefore put it on the upper end of Tiago and Tigor, as opposed to the lowest version. And the consumer demand has been fantastic. I think it's suffice to say that our bookings are in excess of 4 months at this point in time for the CG and climbing, right, because of the demand. And this is just largely from the four large markets for CNG, as you know. And because of some of the very intelligent features of this car, I think that's our research and insight into what consumers wanted before we put it out there has really, really helped us. The key features of the car, like the auto CNG start, the leakage detection, the single ECU to automatic switch between the car will automatically switch between the two fuel options. I think it's been a wonderful and enlightening experience for us. That you put something different, something meaningful, the consumer understands, and he will respect you for that, and he will reward you for that.
So, since you have said that you have almost 4 to 6 months of booking for the CNG range, can we expect your sub 4 meter offerings getting the CNG treatment soon? Most likely the Ultros and the Punch. That is where I think the demographics show because Punch has been doing over 10,000 units every month. I've seen 14,000, 15,000 units on the sales tally. So I think a lot of people are now buying Punch and we can see it on roads. So that being said, is the Punch and the Ultros and your other sub 4 meter offerings ready for the CNG fight transition?
We think there's a lot of potential in CNG, right? But there are a lot of considerations from one, of course, internal brand, business, etc., etc. Then there is supply chain, there is semiconductor crisis, and so on and so forth. So I think we want to tread carefully uh, and not. We don't want to be in situations like others where you have 10, 11, 12 months waiting. It is not good for the customer. Certainly not good for just having it in the books to talk about it. We want to do things step by step at a time when we can make sure that we service the customer within a very reasonable time frame, right? So just wait and watch. We do have plans around the CNG. Nothing that I can commit at this point in time, but we will do it when we are ready. When to make sure that the customer does not go through a pain where you book a car and you're waiting for 8 to 10 months. That doesn't make sense.
And as you said about the semiconductor crisis, so this is a very hot topic of debate these days. In fact, a very hot topic of concern right now. So Tata Motors is having a neck-to-neck fight to secure the second largest car maker position and I think you guys did it in December. Congratulations on that.
Thank you.
In
Thank you, Mohit.
January, the fight was tough, and now we're looking forward for the numbers for February. So, how do you think semiconductor crisis has affected Tata Motors' sale, or what's the cure for it?
I mean, I don't know what the cure for is. I don't think the cure is anybody's hand in India as such. Any kind of availability which would be set up in India will take a couple of years to set up, right? But this is something that we are all facing in the industry. I think that Tata Motors has managed it well because of our worldwide connectivity. We manage and our access to our partners and the Tata brand name as a company to deal with. I think we have managed it better than most, or certainly our teams have been absolutely brilliant in terms of being nimble, in terms of being agile to what is the market situation, uh, uh, open market availability of semiconductors, and even in some cases where we have looked at opportunities to reduce semiconductors by making certain adjustments in our feature sets, and that's actually rewarded us where we have manage the semiconductor requirements for a particular model by introducing a new variant with a few less features, but at of course at a lower price as well to make sure that it's a great price value equation for the customer. So these are some of the interventions I think that we've been doing, and it's come out well for us. As obvious from the graph of the company, the way the graph has moved over the last 1.5 years in terms of up and up and up from 4% 18 months ago, or to where we are today. It's been a wonderful justification of the efforts of all the people in TML.
And now, since this discussion was about Kaziranga Edition, that's where we started off. So, when we talk of national parks, there's a certain lifestyle associated to it. And when we talk of lifestyle, Tata Motors was an early entrant in the lifestyle pickup space. Yes, I'm talking about the Zeno pickup, and it was ahead of its time. But do you think it is the right time to make a entry with that brand again, or Tata Motor has a new lifestyle vehicle for the Indian masses?
Again, Mohit, you and the customers will have to wait and see. We have a lot of exciting things in our pocket, a lot of plans, a lot of things being worked upon. I think it's sufficient to say that if people have liked the Kaziranga, people have liked the dark editions, if people have liked the gold editions, I'm sure we'll be able to bring wonderful new products and new stories to charm the customers in the near future.
And another question that I have is that car makers are betting big on turbo petrol engines these days. But when we talk of Tata Motors, there are, as far as I remember, there are only two offerings that come with a turbo petrol motor. So, what kind of demand do you see when we compare a naturally aspirated motor with a turbo petrol engine? Like, is it the turbo petrol engine that's doing better on the sales tally, or is it the naturally aspirated one? And what do you think is the better bet when we talk of future?
Look, I think it's not such a simple question to answer because it first of all depends on what's the kind of best engine that does justice to the kind of car that you're putting out there. Uh, on a like-to-like basis, the turbos is a very specific requirement from a smaller segment of the customer because there's also a price equation involved, right? But first and foremost, you have to make sure that you do justice to the car. You don't overpower it or underpower it in that sense, right? So it has to go into the right models where you can do justice, where the customer can see that it makes sense to be in the car. That by itself kind of brings down the market segment or the market size per se. And then of course, like I said, there's a whole price equation and perceived benefit from the customer perspective. So when you look at all these things, the market, the size of that kind of gets smaller. But that is not to say that it is not something that is exciting as a proposition to bring into certain models, and we will continue to explore it as we create newer and newer introductions for the market.
And now, without taking a lot of your time, this would be my last question for the day. So, you also head the customer service department. And as it has been revealed, uh, sorry, that would be a wrong word. Like what all, I'm a Tata Motors owner, by the way. I have a Tata Zest. So I've been,
That's a classic.
right. So that's where the transition began and we bought one. Uh, So now I want to ask you about a gray point that is being often referred to as by the customer, that the service remains a gray area for Tata Motors. How do you think Tata Motors is working on it, and what are the key factors that you are working on? And that's all. That's what I actually want to know.
Mohit, I'm going to start. I'm going to say, put it this way to you. I think that it takes a lot of time to correct perception, right? Social media, blah blah blah, and the customers who are really satisfied. We all know that people who are satisfied barely comment. It is people who are not satisfied who comment, and that kind of creates the impression that you've talked about. But and I'm not saying that we were not in that space 1.5 years ago, but I can promise you and I can assure you that every research that we have done, and we do continuously, we have a regular dipstick, we have a metric where we call up customers after every service interactions, and we ask them a series of, net promoter score or satisfaction questions. And we have seen a trajectory which is equivalent to the growth of this company in terms of the improvement on that scale, right? But it takes time to move a mountain, and that mountain here is perception. It takes time to move that ship, you know. But I can promise you that that ship is moving, it's turning around, and we know internally that we're in the right place, and of course the efforts keep happening, right? Whether it's uh, getting more equipped manpower, getting the right giving the right kind of training, the right kind of follow up, bringing in technology to be able to give updates to the customers, and increasing the number of workshops, increasing the mobile van access to the customer, offering home pickups, etc. Uh, uh, all those things have been in play aggressively over the last year and a half, because we also understand if you want to build a great brand, product will take you to a certain level. But then after that, the rest of the 5 6 years, it's all about service and the experience the customer gets, right? So I can promise you, and that the things have changed, but it's going to take time to correct the perception. And there'll always be some cases where things don't work well for the consumers, and but we act very very swiftly, right at my level, to make sure that uh, we kind of uh, do not let the customer uh, get compromised or our service get compromised. And I'm sure that you would have experienced that as well, since you have got a Zest, which is one of our older cars, and it's still working wonderfully well. So obviously somebody is doing a good job for you from our side as far as maintaining the car is concerned. So starting with you, Mohit, correct the perception.
Well, certainly. I think that gray area is now getting a lot more sunlight from your end, I would say. And I think on this note, there were enough questions for today. I hope you enjoyed them, and we certainly had great insights from your end about Tata Motors, its future plans. And we're looking forward to get one-on-one with the Kaziranga edition and come up
Thank
with a
you.
video for our
Thank you, Mohit.
viewers.
Look forward to hearing your reviews. Thank you.
Sure.